Big fish. We the ones that you wanna get with. Took a couple L's, rung a couple
What's good,
real ones, too legit for coin telling.
Shout out to
Straight
Uncle in the building.
troopers, all troopers. Me and the guys ain't never been losers.
Turn on this heat
See a
real
nice
quick
little
over there.
thing, we pursue her. See a nice little, yeah. I'm moving with a purpose, bigger than a service. You can never, even if you rehearse this. We own it, yeah, hurts it. Big difference, that's worth less, yes. All we do is impress. Put the work in, never mind all the stress. And you don't mind tests when you better than the rest. OG 101, it was all in the prep. Yeah, we some legends in the game. If you're scared to embrace it, then how you gonna change? Yeah, everyone wanna range, but the value that you bring, little boy, small change. I'm just saying, that's life, man. You control your destiny simply with your mind frame. You go hard from the gate, every day, clean slate. And patience is a privilege, I ain't got, so I wait. OG, big fish, we the ones that you wanna get.
Welcome. Appreciate y'all tapping in early on a Friday. We got a lot of stuff to discuss. As always, we're going to have a great show for y'all today. What we got? We got Unc making sure that everybody likes, subscribes, what he says, and subscribe. Tell 2 friends and tell them to tell 3 friends. As usual, this is going to be one of those shows where it's going to be something to talk about. Let's talk about it, Unc. Got me going early. All right, man. Make sure that you like as you're joining. Subscribe. Turn your notifications on. Maybe say hello. Let us know where you're tapping in from. That always helps the algorithm. As you all know, our goal is to make sure as many different perspectives share with this show as possible. And when I say share, give your perspective, give your insight. We all have unique experiences that help shape the way that we see the world. So the more people we can get an understanding from, the better. At least that's how we see it, right? We want to be able to build from that type of diversity of thought, diversity of experience. So make sure y'all tap in, tell a friend to tell a friend. We got Big Bro Brandon's in the building. Shout out to Big Bro, man. Shout out to Big Bro. Appreciate you tapping in. We got My B 36941. I don't know if Maya switched up, threw some names on there. I don't know if that's Maya or a different Maya, but grand rising to you nonetheless. Unc Road, have you ever noticed that nations of all planets? Hold on. My fault. Let me turn that off. It's time to get to the show. So Unc said, have you ever noticed that nations of all planets have colorful flags, but there is no flag for all of us as one? That's interesting. And we talk about symbolism. Did I just say symbolism? I'm like, hold on, how you pronounce that? In my head, I stopped for a second. We talk about symbolism all the time as far as what we see and how it shapes us, especially at a young age when we see a lot of these things. So that's a great observation, huh? Great observation. Love the Black Panther. All right, so my bro Mersh got me this, man. He said, yo, you the Black Panther. He said, but honestly, you more Killmonger. And I said, bro, Killmonger was the Black Panther at a particular time. So this is not this Black Panther. This is actually the Killmonger. So this is Michael B. Jordan. So for all those that know the storyline, I guess y'all understand what I'm saying. But yeah, we definitely Killmongers out here. We're definitely Killmonger. And even giving them the name Killmonger, it's like, it's very stereotypical. All right, let's keep it going. Hi from Poland. I found your channel through Nick's commentary. I really like you and your content. Appreciate you tapping in and appreciate you voicing that. I'll be totally honest. I always wonder, obviously with the numbers going up so much since we did the Nick review, since I just found Nick obviously a polarizing figure, and we always wonder, if it's just, obviously, most of y'all tapping in just for Nick. But we always like for y'all to, stay and, maybe see other aspects of the channel and what we do. It's almost like, let Nick be the headliner. Nick's definitely the headliner. So we appreciate that. But also, hopefully, y'all can stick around and get some of the other parts of the channel as well. So definitely appreciate that. Let me make sure. I just saw my network tap out a little bit. Just want to make sure that the Wi-Fi is good. Hold on. Let me keep going. Maya said, I don't know how my name changed. Trying to hide from somebody. You just made your own word of symbol. What did I say? Symbolism or symbol instead of symbolism. Oh man. How's it going, brother? You're up late. Where you tapping in from? I felt like I am up late, but where are you tapping in from? Critical thinking. Shout out to critical thinking in the building. Morning, woke up late, had to force that 6-mile run today. Wasn't feeling it, but glad I did it anyway. What did I miss? You didn't miss anything. You didn't miss anything. But if this daggone Wi-Fi keeps going in and out, I didn't have the Wi-Fi logo up there. And the only reason why I put it back is because on our other show that we're doing, we did our panel podcast. So we had everybody's name on there. So I was like, let me just leave it up there so people could find me on Instagram. But critical thinking. I got to get better, man. I got to get better with the early morning workout. I got to get better for it. I definitely got to get better. We all got to do better. Come on, man. I need us all to hold each other accountable. Get up early, work out first thing. Worldwide, nephew. Appreciate that, Unc. I keep trying to tell you I got friends, and every one of them got different colored passports. I love that. In California, it's 5 a.m. here. All right, I'll take that. That's why I kind of like being on the East Coast a little bit. You know, you get that early morning rush. Where in Cali, you wake up feeling like you're already behind. I don't know. Do you? Or I guess it kind of work both ways. All right, whatever. I'm rambling. All right, so what do we have today? So we're going to show a clip of a review. Well, it's not my opinion on it. It's just we're going to show a clip of Nick's show in which they're discussing something that the Trump administration is putting in play. And I want to get some of y'all thoughts on it. So it's about the Trump administration being more proactive. And this is just what I don't know the legitimacy of this and if it's actually going to happen, but more proactive with bringing in more white immigrants to America. And I believe like there's an interesting twist on it where it's not only white immigrants, but people that are not really excited about like immigration overall. It's kind of strange, but we'll unpack it and see exactly what's going on. Get your thoughts on it. I'll give mine. Y'all may say I'm totally crazy. Who knows? Then we're going to get into a little bit, not going to spend too much time at all, but just kind of a little bit of an update on Palestine, Israel, what's going on. Are the hostages exchanged? Just earlier in the convo, Maya was telling me some stuff that I wasn't even aware of because I was wondering. I'm like, oh, there's definitely going to be an issue with this hostage exchange just based on the fact that they haven't brought back all of the non-living hostages and to Israel. So I'm like, all right, that's all they need, a green light to start going off. But I guess a lot of the hostages haven't been able to be returned because they're under some of the rubble that was caused by some of the bombs that were dropped on them. So who knows how that's going to go. But Trump said something interesting that highlights exactly why I think a lot of Americans do not want to be involved. So we'll discuss that. Tucker, we're going to use one of Tucker's video to discuss. I'm not sure if y'all heard about these group messages leaked. I want to know y'all opinion on when a private message is leaked to the public. Should people be held accountable? Should they not? There's been a couple different instances in which this happened, and Politico did an article on the young Republican one that was released. And, you know, I want to get your thoughts on it. We got RFK Jr. coming through with some health advice. I need if my assistant is listening, then I would appreciate that brand new tissue box that I just opened in the room. If my assistant's listening, I don't need dang on allergies. I think it's going back and forth between the weather, Florida and now here. Who knows? I'm just making excuses. All right. So once again, we got RFK Jr. giving us some health insight. And then we have an interesting story, just a clip of this is something I wasn't aware of, but apparently our kids are hitting puberty early. We definitely know that they get more and more advanced, I think, mentally, you know, doing things earlier and whatnot. But apparently, due to a lot of the foods that we're consuming and not really food that we're consuming, it's causing American kids to hit their puberty early. And based on some of the studies that they did with other animals, then there's also some other side effects that may be coming into play that we're seeing in our culture as well. We got a couple other stories with Stephen A. Smith and Jasmine Cry. I don't even know if we're going to get into all this. Y'all know how I do. I usually put about 8 videos to the side, and then we end up discussing one. So once again, make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, turn your notifications on, send this to a friend. Need y'all to do me a favor, send this to a friend, and then we're going to get into the first part of the show with the good brother, Nick Fuentes. Right? Yeah, that's y'all bro. That's not y'all bro. Stop playing, man. All right, let me share the screen for y'all. My assistant came through. Can you give me the tissue? Can you blow? Can you? I'm typing. Can you help me with my nose? There you go. All right. Thank you. Let's get into this. I'll let Nick explain it, and then we'll go through it. I want to get y'all thoughts on this. So once again, keep up in the comments. Let us know where you're tapping in from. Hopefully we can highlight that, and then we'll get into this interesting conversation now.
There are some good people, some bad people, and consequently, there's some good policies and some bad ones. And this is certainly, if this happens, I think this is great. The big story today is that the Trump administration is considering prioritizing white refugees from countries like South Africa, specifically those that are assimilable and against immigration. And I saw this, and my first thought was, man, for years we have been saying we want no immigration, even white people.
I know, I blew my nose, I was on mute, but I want to go back just a couple seconds and make sure that I heard correctly what he said as far as them prioritizing white immigrants, but there was something else that he said.
We have been saying we want no and I saw this, and my first thought was assimilable and against immigration. Countries like South Africa, specifically those that are assimilable and against immigration. And I saw this, and my first thought was, man, for years we have been saying we want no immigration, even white people. But at the same time, I'm like, we want more white people in America. It's actually safe to say, this is fine. I'm fine with it. We've had 30 years of infinite Indians, Chinese, Hispanics. Let's give some white people a home. Let's give some white people a chance here. And this is the story from...
all right, so before we get into Nick's opinion on what the Trump administration is doing, this is something that just kind of brought me to a different place. Let me come on, Nick. Hey, Nick, I give you the main screen when it's your videos, but this is different. I need a little bit more. All right, so we've gotten to a point where everything is just racialized. And this is just another example of why I don't look at things as black, white, as far as my people, right? My group. I'm not a tribalist looking at things as if only me and mine is the black people, right? The blacks, as we're called. And I don't think that it's beneficial for other cultures to do the same. I just don't think that it works. I don't think that it aligns with the principles of what humanity should be. I think we all would acknowledge, especially for those that are religious, who believe in God. It kind of would make sense for, if you believe in God, to want all of God's children to live in harmony, peaceful. And we understand that tribalism on any level is really just the first step to war. So this is just my opinion. I want to be very clear on that. So we've gotten to a point where everything has become racialized. And this is why I say, I identify my people based on morals, values, principles, right? If I align with I like being around people whose principles, morals, values, how they see integrity. That's how I identify my people. If we use anything else, then it almost dumbs us down in a way as far as what should be prioritized, right? If we're using other things to prioritize who we identify our people with, and we're putting, let's say, race, religion, we're putting all these things that have nothing to do with your character, nothing to do with what type of person you are, what type of morals you have, all of these other things that in a lot of ways are not even in your control. Obviously, when it comes to skin color, and even when it comes to religion, a lot of times that just, based on the culture that you grow up in, your family, all these other sort of things, right? So you have, in this instance, where a lot of people will just look at the video that Nick just talked about, or that Nick, that we just reviewed, and people will look at the video and debate whether or not it's fair now for white immigrants to get a chance. Because Nick is right. When you look at the majority of immigrants that have come into the country, it hasn't been prioritizing, let's say, white immigrants, but in my opinion, it has been prioritizing other groups of people that, for one, can be used as the next group of victims that Democrats and liberals can appeal to in order to get them to vote, right? We've all talked about this. We all see it. You bring in immigrants. You bring in immigrants who want to come to America. They're fleeing their country. They feel like they can come here, the land of opportunity, live the American dream. Then when they come here, even if they have nothing, they know that America is going to take care of their food, going to take care of their shelter, going to pay for their education, maybe going to pay for them to have a phone, all these type of programs that are given to immigrants, maybe even help you with buying a house, help you towards citizenship, all these different things. They're trying to appeal to you. So therefore, when they look at, oh my God, who gave us this opportunity? They're going to associate it with the Democrats and the liberals. We see that happen on that side. We've called it out for a very long time. They're trying to import voters in a lot of ways. This is my opinion. Just my opinion. You may feel otherwise. You may feel like they're just doing it because they're amazing people and they want to help out others in other countries that may be suffering. Perhaps you think that. What I would question is the fact that you think that they would have that mindset about other countries, but I don't think that it necessarily aligns with our country. And that's both on the Democrat and Republican side as far as when it comes to whether or not they're putting America first. Everything is based on politics. Everything is based on a plan to push a particular agenda one way or another. So you have that on the Democrat liberal side. So now I guess on the conservative Republican side, they're pushing to bring in people that align with their values, right? But they're not saying align with their values. They're just saying white immigrants, right? So here you have the Democrats on one side that are prioritizing whatever group of victims that they can bring in, import as future voters. And then you have the Republicans who, and I can't even say that it's based on principles or anything like that. I don't know if it's based on principles or anything like that. But what it's based on, they just think that white people are going to be more aligned with the culture, more aligned with the things that they push, their agenda, lockstep with them. That's what they believe. And what Nick pointed out that was interesting was the fact that they don't believe in immigration. So my mindset, where my mind goes on that, is just they don't support bringing in all of the people that the Democrats typically want to bring in. So we find ourselves in this place where you have the Democrats and liberals on one end who are trying to bring in as many people to push their agenda, which is deprioritizing actually American citizens who are in the country, and they're doing it for reasons that only benefit their political party. And then on the other end, you have the Republicans that are now saying that they want to, I don't know if they're saying white, but they're now, let's say if they are, based on what Nick is saying, we'll take his word for it. They're now looking into push to have more white immigrants come to the country. This is what happens when we racialize everything. This is what happens when we look at things through a lens of critical race theory, where we see race in everything first. Like that's the first thing that we notice. If we look for race in everything, then that's what we're going to see. If we look for race when we're looking for a solution or we're looking to identify a problem, then that's what we're going to see first. I had a conversation the other day, very quickly, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I had and y'all let me know exactly how y'all feel. Because Nick's mindset is like, all right, we brought in all these other people. Let's give some white people the American dream. What do y'all feel when y'all hear this? And I want to share a quick story as you guys are giving me your feedback in the chat. So on Monday, after to celebrate the Honorable Christopher Columbus, to celebrate Columbus Day, a couple friends, I'm joking, Tap Into Monday show. There's going to be a whole lot of people who didn't tap in on Monday that are going to hear me saying, celebrating the Honorable Christopher Columbus and be like, look at this coon. He's a sellout. Like, he celebrates Christopher Columbus. Yeah, whatever. But on Monday, some friends of mine and I, they were having an Indigenous Peoples Day. That's what they've done it before on Columbus Day, where instead of celebrating Christopher Columbus Day, they pay homage to the indigenous people in America. So we go to this event, and I see a buddy of mine who we did a program with before, and yeah, whatever. So we're having a convo, and he actually told me, he said like, yo, I saw you on TikTok. And I'm like, I don't have TikTok anymore. I don't go on TikTok. I don't post on TikTok. I deleted the TikTok app. So then he says, oh, I saw you with your boy on there. And I'm like, huh? He's like, you did a show with somebody. Like, you had somebody doing a show with him. So part of me, I'm like, is he talking about Fuentes? But I just kept going with it. I'm like, yo, what you talking about? Like, huh? Like, who? And he said, the kid. And he said, you know, he said something. I forget. I don't even want to misquote him. But he said something where I knew that he was talking about Fuentes. So we get on to have a conversation about Fuentes. And I think that people it's just another example of people don't watch full content. Like, they don't watch full shows. They'll typically pay attention to a clip. So I don't know what clip he saw. And he couldn't even tell me what the clip was about. I don't even think that it came down to what the clip was about, because he probably just already had a mindset of like who Nick Fuentes was. I don't know. And he made a comment. We were talking about, now here we're sitting at this Indigenous event, and there's people on stage that are all different backgrounds. Had a couple white people, you know, Europeans, whatever we want to call them. Some people that look like they're from the island, some Black Americans. It was a diverse panel, and some other cultures as well. And one of the things that one of the speakers was talking about, it was a white guy, and he does Made in Miami, I believe, or I think that's the name of the brand. And he was talking about how they're always looking to, you know, bring different types of people together, help different groups that don't typically maybe have access to certain networks to establish their brands, to grow their businesses, all these different things, right? He was looking to help. I assume that that's why my people had him on the panel. So this buddy that I'm talking to, I'm sorry, I'm getting long-winded with the story, but this buddy that I'm talking to, he makes the comment, and he says, yeah, you know, I'm just trying to help Black kids. You know, I'm just trying to help Black kids. That's my thing. And I don't think that, before I even talk about it, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, having that mindset. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And this conversation kind of came up in this program that we're doing at my home church. And my mindset is just a bit differently. When I look at some of the advantages that I have, and I think I may have shared a little bit of this with y'all before, I appreciate the diversity that I had growing up. I appreciate the diversity that I have in my life right now. If I was to close my eyes and look at the world and just say like, yo, if I just locked in more so with just Black people and didn't lock in with anybody else, where would my life be? How would I be feeling right now? I wouldn't have as many friends, all these different things, right? And I think that when we live in this racialized society, that we've been tricked into, manipulated into seeing the world through that lens, and it doesn't benefit us, in my opinion. I think that it brings about a lot of shortcomings and lost opportunities and a lot of other areas. So the point that I was trying to make, just giving y'all this long-winded story, is that when I look at my childhood, when I think about networking events that I like to go to, although some people do, I guess, like to just go to Black-only networking events, think about the networking events that you typically go to. Are those networking events just a particular race of people? Or are there multiple types of people? So for me, when I'm doing programs for the kids, I think it's important for us to understand that even though we may think that we're doing something honorable, and it may be honorable, I'm not saying that at all that it isn't, there's advantages in young kids. You know, are we robbing the kids of an opportunity to have diversity around them? Are we robbing the kid from being around a kid that may come from a different background than him, that may come from a different socioeconomic background, right? Background than him? Are we robbing him of the opportunity to maybe learn a different culture, to be around a different type of person that may be in his current neighborhood? Are we robbing the kids of that? So I think when we just get in this racialized tribal mentality, I just have grown into, or I'm not trying to say that, oh, I have a better outlook compared to what I had before, but just for me, I just think that we've been tricked into just this racialized tribalism that allows ourselves to just be divided and conquered in ways that if we got out of this mindset, we wouldn't. So my fault, I'm rambling on that, but that was just kind of just one of the things that I was thinking about. And it just was I was reminded to it when I was listening to Nick's video, where it's like, oh, bring in white people. Imagine if America had just certain morals and principles and values when it came to, hey, what people we want to prioritize allowing to come into this country, because it has to be protected. I don't think that we should just let in any and everybody, but I also don't think that we should be prioritizing it based on our political agenda. Let's bring in this group because they can be our next group of victims that we appeal to and they'll vote for us. Or let's bring in this group because they come from more white countries that may align with us and they'll fall into exactly what it is that we're cooking up on our side and pushing our agenda. Why can't it just be, why don't we have a set of American values, a set of principles that I think we all can stand on, and we prioritize it based on that? That's who we want to bring in. That's the standard that we're going to set, right? In any club, in any group, in every family, standards are set. In any business, workplace, you set a standard, just like I always bring up the New England Patriots. They have a certain standard, and if you don't align with that standard, then this is not going to be the best place for you to come. You're not going to be here long, or you won't even get in the first place. But instead, we just can't help ourselves from seeing the world just through white versus black and thinking that white people behave this way, black people behave this way, Indian people behave this way. It's just a very limited mindset. So maybe that's just me seeing the world through this utopian lens that I may see the world through. Maybe I'm being a bit naive, but I just don't think that we need to go around and just see things through a critical race theory lens. I don't think that there's any benefit in that. I think that it just leads us to tribalism. It leads us to, oh, I'm okay with this group of people being killed and having a genocide committed against them because the people doing it, they align with my skin color, or I'm okay with this terrorist or this army group, militant group, whatever it may be on this side, doing something to that side because they may align with my skin color. It's the same thing on both sides. It's the same thing on both sides, and it's very limiting rather than us just being able to see things through this lens first of, hey, what are my principles? How does this apply when I think about the golden rule of treating others the way that I want to be treated? Removing the bias, removing the ego, removing the attachment based on who relates to me the most. So these are just some of the thoughts that just come up in my mind. My apologies for rambling so long, but let's get back to Nick's video. We'll let him finish off and then we'll move on to the next video. All right, let me get back to the corner real quick.
New York Times. We'll just talk about the policy. It says, quote, "The Trump administration is considering a radical overhaul of the U.S. refugee system that would slash the program to its bare bones while giving preference to English speakers, white South Africans, and Europeans who oppose migration." Love it. The proposals, some of which already have gone into effect, would transform a decades-old program aimed at helping the world's most desperate people into one that conforms to Mr. Trump's vision of immigration, which is to help white people who say they are being persecuted while keeping the vast majority of other people out. Okay, well, what's wrong with helping white people? Haven't we helped enough non-white people? When is enough enough? We've helped like 70 million non-white people come here in a few generations. That's not enough. We can only help non-white people. White people are being treated bad.
I want to. I just saw this comment. Shout out to Dang. Dang, is it Dan? I don't know if it's Dan or Dan G or Dang. My apologies if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. But definitely want to address this comment. So if white people don't start tribalism for ourselves, we are cooked. Everyone else does it to a large extent. And I'm assuming that when you say white people, you're talking about white Americans. Because when you say everyone else already does it to a large extent, I think the people that do it most, like when I think about when I was working in Queens, like you have the Russian pockets, you know, you have the Korean areas, the Chinese areas, you have the Indian areas, you have the Caribbean areas, you have all these different areas, you have black areas. And when I mentioned black last, you know, I'm thinking about whether or not I would look at blacks as being tribal. And what's funny is, I think this happens in a lot of cultures. I had an Italian buddy of mine say it, that typically Italians don't help out other Italians when he was talking about his work experience, like him growing up, going through corporate America, like he was in sales. And he said that a lot of Italians that he's come into contact with, they're just hesitant to help him for whatever reason. And I think when I think about black people, even in the industry that I'm in with my experience, I think that a lot of black people are hesitant to help other black people. Now, I don't disagree with what you're saying though, Dan, because when I think a little bit more about it, it's like, yeah, we're hesitant to help, but if I turn on the TV and I see a black guy fighting a white guy in UFC or boxing, you know, I'm using the UFC reference. I see you got that in your pick. Typically, what do a lot of us do, right? And I try to be very cautious of this. You're like, I'm going for the black guy. I'm going for the black. You know what I mean? Like, so I definitely do get what you're saying. Now, that may be a little bit different. Like, I don't think that black people have unity. I don't think that. I think that's one of the biggest complaints. Especially when you look at other cultures. But getting back to your question, if white people don't start tribalism for ourselves, who would that tribalism consist of? And I think critical thinking just put it, for me, like a nationalism. The problem with nationalism is, well, I shouldn't even say the problem with nationalism. The problem with how a lot of people use nationalism is they use it as tribalism. And they use it as a racial tribalism. So going back to what, hold on, if I could find it. My fault, Dan. I already lost your comment. But going back to what Dan said, this is something that Nick says. Nick says that he's a white nationalist or a white Christian nationalist at different times. Sometimes he'll say that he's an American nationalist. It goes back and forth. So that's why I asked Dan, what would tribalism, like, who are these white people that would be in your tribal? You know what I mean? Is it just white Americans? And then how do you break it down? Is it because Italians, they're pretty tribal, right? Italians are tribal. You got Chinatown, you got Chinese people that are tribal, you got Russians that are tribal, Jewish people that are tribal, Indian people are tribal. So I'm just wondering, when it comes to, when you're mentioning white people, who exactly are you talking about? Are you talking about the Russians? The Russians that I know are pretty tribal. Are you talking about English speak, like from the UK, Irish people? Are Irish people not tribal? So I'm kind of just wondering what and who exactly you're talking about. But when it comes to nationalism and putting the country first, I wish that more people could get on board with that. I wish that there was a true sense of nationalism where everybody was really proud to be American. Everybody was proud to live in America, and everybody wanted to contribute to making America the best society that it can be for all of Americans. I would love that, but it tends to get skewed. It tends to always go back to color-coded nationalism. It tends to always go back to race nationalism, even if we start saying, you know, America first, America this. It tends to always go back to white or black. That's what it tends to go back. I don't know if y'all are seeing the same things, but that's what I typically see. And Nick shows that all the time. If we're just being honest.
We can only help non-white people. White people are being treated badly in South Africa. We can't help them because they're white. We only help non-white people forever, and that's it. So I don't, it's even in the wording, it's just dripping with like contempt. It's like white people is just automatically a bad word. Oh, he wants to help white people. Okay, why is that a bad thing? Isn't that a good thing?
Damn, we've been so dumbed down as a group. And we live in such a scarcity mindset, in my opinion. Even with this right here, right? I started off the show talking about Black Panther, and I had no idea we were going to even go this way. But if you understand the story of Black Panther and why I started off saying, like, I don't even rock with the Black Panther. What was the Black Panther Chadwick was playing? What was his name in the movie? I rock with Killmonger. I rock with Michael B. Jordan. Somebody that I don't rock with the aspect of us feeling like we have limited resources and we got to just protect those and hold on to them. And we got this pot of gold and we don't want to share it with anybody. I don't really rock with that. And maybe that's another example of, here you had the Black Panther, their tribe. It's not like they were rocking with all the black people. They just were rocking with their tribe, their particular group. And really, in my opinion, hiding their resources from other people that, even if we look at it from a racial standpoint, are their people, But I think that our problem is that we just have this scarcity mindset where we feel like there's a piece of the pie and that everybody's just fighting for, their piece of the pie. That a win for you has to be a loss for somebody else and vice versa. I just think that that's the mindset, and it just puts us in this place where we're just dumbing ourselves down. Like, if we're really just looking at, like, think about that. It has nothing to do with your character, nothing to do with your principles, nothing to do with anything like that. It's just based on race. All right, we're gonna let's move on to the next video. I think we got enough of that. So let's get an update on what's going on. I think I should already have it pulled up. Let's get an update of what's going on with Hamas, the IDF, the Israel, Palestine, however you want to call it. Let's take a look at this and hopefully. And last point. So John, shout out to John. Black Panther 2 was all about fighting a people just like them, but look different. Exactly. Like, that's my point. Like, we get tricked into these dumb things. And I think, what's so funny, and I'm glad that you wrote this, John. I really appreciate it, because let's read this statement again. Black Panther 2 was all about fighting a people just like them, but look different. Think about that. The majority of us were going through the same issues. The majority of us, if we sat down and had lunch together, if you sat down and had lunch with your biggest op, somebody that you believe is seeing the world through a totally different lens than you, if you sat down and had lunch with them, I think that we would begin to realize the majority of the things that we so much closely align with, instead of prioritizing the few differences that we have that are pretty much, I'm going to say probably, based on us just having different experiences. Oh, this is why you see the world like this? Oh, this is why you typically hate this type of person, or you thought you hate this type of person because of this, because of that. And then you realize, like, damn, I can understand from your perspective why your experience has shaped you to see the world through this lens. I can understand through your perspective. I may not be able to agree or truly understand, but I can understand how your experience has shaped that for you. I may not be able to relate. But us just having that understanding there and appreciation for your experience and appreciation for my experience, then it'll bring us together. I just don't think that us always concentrating on the areas in which we see things wrong is ever going to help bring us together, if that's truly the goal. If you have a goal of having humanity live in harmony, of achieving this greater peace that we talk about on this show, then how can we achieve those things by focusing on the areas that we don't agree on, or we just don't have the same lens that exposes the same things? We don't have the same appreciation. let's sit down in a room. Let's talk about it. Let's put that stuff on the table. That's why I always encourage us to have more conversations with people that we don't think that we typically align with, or we don't think that we typically agree with. Have a conversation. We never know what will happen there, because I think what will end up happening is we're realizing that a lot of the people that we're fighting we're more closely aligned to, especially when it comes to the people that are, creating the division and chaos. When most people that fight on the front line, think about even people that fight on the front line, typically in wars. Probably when it comes to history, humanity, dating back, it's most of the peasants, right? It's the pawns. I bet you that black pawn on the chessboard has more in common with the white pawn on the chessboard than it does with the white pawn has in common with that white king or that white castle, or the black pawn has in common with that black king or that black rook or that black horse. Y'all get what I'm saying? Hopefully y'all understand what I'm saying. Hopefully it's making sense through this stuff he knows. All right, let's keep it going.
Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Hamas is retaking control in parts of Gaza.
So I never saw this, by the way. I never saw this this news station before. But when I watched the video, I thought it was like back to the like 80s, 90s. It reminded me of like an 80s, 90s news station. Maybe it was just the green suit and my man, but I like it.
President Trump is responding with a strong warning to the terror group. Give up your weapons or we'll take them from you.
Israel is claiming Hamas is breaking the ceasefire terms by delaying the return of deceased hostages. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more.
President Trump is warning Hamas to lay down its weapons, as they agreed to do in the ceasefire deal.
We have...
Hold on. My apologies. Sometimes they come through late. Hold on. So very quickly, one second. We'll get right back to that. So Critical Thinking wrote How Slavery Started, One Tribe Raiding Another Tribe. I just wanted to put that up there, the tribalism. But shout out to Sherwood, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Sherwood be great. I like that. I see what you did there. Sherwood be great. All right, I like that. Reminds me of Darryl Davis, who is a black musician that goes out of his way to sit down with KKK members, many of which have left the KKK after realizing that they're not so different after all. And I think, and Sherwood, I'm not sure how long you've been tapping in with us. Well, first and foremost, thank you for, the super chat. It goes a long way. Trust me, it's greatly appreciated. But we reviewed a video of the Grand Wizard of the KKK. And this was an interview, I think, from like the 80s. I think it was in the 80s. And for me, it was mind-blowing because everything that the Grand Wizard was saying, it was different than how I remembered it, how it was taught to me, how it was propagandized to me. And the reason why I'm throwing out all these things, because I don't know if it was propagandized to me with bad intent. I'm not saying that. I also don't know if it was maybe just where my mind was when I was processing who the KKK was. I had a different understanding of life, humanity, culture, America, right? History. So therefore I may have seen it just in a different way. So therefore I received the information differently. But when I was looking at it, I was reminded that, okay, I think Marcus Garvey, had some meetings with the KKK. And I was reminded that everything that this quote unquote white nationalist was saying, this Grand Wizard of the KKK, it was exactly the things that I heard Malcolm X saying as a black nationalist. It was the same thing. So when I look at a lot of these people that are nationalists, but it's based on race, I realize that they're all saying the very same things. And perhaps if instead of us just saying it in our bubble, because we're only around a certain group of people, perhaps if we had those people come together, then we realize like, oh, you pushing for black nationalism while I'm pushing for white nationalism, vice versa. Yo, we really pushing for the same things. And that's just step one. I don't want it to end there. I don't want it to be, oh, all right, so y'all go over there and y'all do y'all thing. Y'all go over there and do your thing. Even if that's step one of, okay, well, we'll be in peace, in harmony. certain aspects of peace and harmony, right? With you over there, you over there. I think that there's more. But what I think, well, that could possibly be the first step to is us realizing like, oh, well, if you kind of see things the same way I see things, and I kind of see things the same way you see things, and, you know, we kind of had this interpretation of things that were a little bit different than now when we're actually sitting down and talking to each other, then actually I wouldn't even really mind being around you like that. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like there's just certain steps to it. And the first step is us just sitting down and realizing, why do you see the world the way you see it? Why do you see the world the way you see it? Oh, matter of fact, yo, if I was in your position, I can understand that. If I was in yours, I can understand that. Yo, maybe we're not so different as much as we thought, because I would have reacted in the same way that you reacted based on the current circumstance. Y'all get where I'm going? So definitely appreciate you, Sherwood. I really just believe this. I really just trust me. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that, but I've been on the other side of it where I'm just with the blackety black. I'm rooting for everything black. I've been there, and I don't think that it's productive. I don't think that it's practical, and perhaps, you know, nothing against that, but, well, maybe it is. I am saying something against that. I just see the world through a different lens, and I have different goals now. I have different goals. My goal is for all of us to live in harmony, because I really believe that that's when we're at our best, not when we're just tribal, just doing for self, however we identify self. But when we're all working together, we're dropping our guard, you know, dropping our ego, and appreciating the different cultures, the different experiences, the different tools, the different skills that different people may bring to the table based on having different experiences. So that's what I value. All right. So you said that happened with Lincoln Rockwell and Malcolm X. I got to look that up. I'm not too familiar with Lincoln Rockwell, but let's get back to, hold on. Oh, bro. See, now when y'all comment, I love when y'all comment. Y'all make it easy for me. The true problem with separatism is separatism. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that, man. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Maybe back up a little bit. And just to prep y'all before we get into the video, give me on a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that this peace plan, ceasefire, whatever it's being called, will last? 10 being that, oh yeah, it's gonna last. We're gonna have peace in the Middle East. We're finally gonna achieve our goal, if that's really the goal. That would be 10. 0 is, man, they finna get right back to it. And this is just another, you know, they're just kind of taking a bye week approach, you know, recalibrating, resting up before either side figures out an excuse to attack the other. 0 to 10, give me your ranking.
President Trump is warning Hamas to lay down its weapons, as they agreed to do in the ceasefire deal.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm.
It comes as...
What do we have to do with this, bro? Yeah, like... you know what the question for me is that it goes back to? What was the point of the last 2 years? What was the point of the last 2 years? And I think King Cry wrote, "Who is we?" I believe you're asking me. I'm talking about America. I'm talking about America. But for me, this goes back to what did the last 2 years accomplish? If we're still going to have the same fight, same argument, what did the last 2 years accomplish? And I say that even from the American perspective of what I said when I said we. King. All right, so King Cry wrote, who is we as far as what Trump said, we will disarm them. I'm glad that you said that. That's what I'm about to tap into. Who is this we when it comes to Trump? Let me adjust. King Cry got me adjusted, and then I'll talk about the other we. But this we that he's talking about, that's the same we that now, based on this CNN poll, and even if this CNN poll is not true, I think it does tell a story. Americans are now feeling more sympathy and empathy for the Palestinians. And aside from that, we just don't want to be involved. Like, we don't want to be involved. We don't want to finance this. We don't want to now that Trump says, oh, if they don't disarm, then we are going to disarm them. So now you're going to have Americans putting their life on the line. And I think that a lot of people, hear me out on this. Even if, what is that going to take? What's the toll that it's going to take to disarm them? And this is going back to when I was saying, like, what did the last 2 years accomplish? It's been a whole lot of deaths, a whole lot of killing, obviously, that go along with that, right? Can't have one without the, well, I don't know. When it comes to war, a lot of us tend to just look at the death rate, the death toll. Oh my God, this many people died. Do we ever look at the other aspect of it also takes a toll on people who are killing people? Think about the PTSD that a lot of our soldiers come back with, to when they can't properly assimilate to society and adjust back to society. Like Trump just making these threats of, oh, now we're going to disarm them. Why are we even involved? We don't want to be involved. The American people do not want to be involved. This is what I'm talking about when I talked about on the chessboard. Well, I say, if you're a pawn, we are pawns on the chessboard. It's always pawns beefing with other pawns. And then it's the kings and the queens, and, you know, they're being diplomatic with everybody. No different than Barack Obama when he sat down and was talking to Donald Trump, and they're kikiing and laughing and whatnot. Pawns are the ones that die. Pawns are the ones that risk their lives. So now he's saying with this threat to Hamas that, oh, okay, if you don't disarm, then we'll disarm you. Why are you putting more American lives at risk? What is the point of? I don't know. In my mind, I know how this is going to go, but I don't know. Maybe y'all look at it a little bit differently. Maybe y'all look at it a little bit differently. In my opinion, the only role that we should have been playing is truly trying to bring peace. If we're going to get involved in these foreign affairs, if we're going to get involved in Israel and Palestine, then we should be the ones setting the precedent. We should be the ones setting the standard. The same way that Trump can come in now and say, hey, you have to disarm. Why couldn't America come in right after October 7th and say, oh, this is not going to turn into anything? This is not going to turn into the next big war. It's tit for tat. It's going back and forth. I know a lot of people like to act as if the war just started on October 7th, but it didn't. So why couldn't America come in? Like, you want to flex your muscle, Trump, against a street gang like Hamas? Like, it's not even like when we think about Hamas, because they're amped up and propagandized so much, it's not even a country's real military. It's a bunch of people, in my opinion, who, going back to Nick Fuentes, how he always talks about he represents the disaffected young white men. Well, I'm pretty sure that there's a whole bunch of disaffected and oppressed Palestinian feeling people who have no military to stand up for them. So therefore, what do? They create they decide. You think bombing them and killing their women and children are going to make them say, oh, I don't want to join Hamas? Or it's going to make those people say, you know what other option do we have? But now Trump wants to throw in there, oh, if you don't disarm, we're going to disarm you. Okay, now we're at war. Now we're at war. That's a threat. I don't know. Oh, man. Sure would be great, bro. We wouldn't even need to disarm them. Just say, take care of yourself and watch how quickly their enemies get at them. And I don't know. I really don't have the answer for what would happen if we just decided to just completely step back and not get involved. I don't know. I don't know, man. Critical Thinking wrote, Hamas was funded by Israel. Yeah, a lot of people, I don't think that a lot of people believe that. But yeah, when you look at it, it's like, it seems like based on the research I've done that is true. That Israel, in a lot of ways, wanted to prop Hamas up to figure out a way to, I guess, cause what's happening right now. I don't know. I'm just telling y'all the stuff that I've looked up. But let's keep going with Trump.
Happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm.
It comes as Hamas moves to retake parts of Gaza and is publicly executing its enemies. Meantime, Israel temporarily closed the Rafah crossing into Gaza. It's accusing Hamas of breaking the agreement by failing to turn over all 28 deceased hostages. Overnight, Hamas turned over 4 more bodies to the International Committee of the Red Cross, but forensics determined one body was not a hostage. That brings the total to just 7. Fabrizio Carboni of the International Committee of the Red Cross told CBN's Faith Nation how important it is for families to receive the remains.
It's not just a point in a peace agreement. It's something very important for the families, because if you don't have the mortal remain and the body, you can't grieve, and more importantly, you don't know, and you stay in a situation of ambiguous loss, and it's a permanent state of torture.
One of those still waiting is Ella Haimi. Her husband Tal died fighting terrorists invading their kibbutz on October 7th, and his body was taken to Gaza. She has 4 children, the youngest born after Tal was killed. She says her life is full of mixed emotions.
I'm very happy for other people, and I'm very sad for myself. We had the worst, that we lost Tal, but we have Lotan, the baby. So this is my life.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sarah visited some of the hostages returned this week.
With the same determination, the same responsibility, the same seriousness, we are dealing with the return of the deceased. We will spare no effort and no means to return them.
Families.
We will spare no efforts and no means to return them. Like, this is the political BS. This is where, if you don't obsess about the research on this topic, then you'll never even be able to ask the right questions. And what I mean by that is, I believe that there was a deal a very long time ago. Now, how do I confirm this? That's why I just have to say I believe. But wasn't there, let me position that as a question. Wasn't there a deal a while ago where Hamas had agreed to give back all the hostages, but Bibi Netanyahu said, like, nah, like, because I guess he still wanted to do some damage. I guess he still wanted to check some more things off the list of the accomplishments that he wanted to make during this war, because you have a small window of opportunity where you can get stuff done when it's wartime, right? So I just, all of this stuff is BS. And I think we as the people, now I'm talking about we as the people in Israel, we as the people in Palestine, we as the people in America. This is when we as the people have to recognize that our politicians, the people that we're looking up to as quote unquote leaders, they're not leading us in a way that's beneficial for us. They're leading us in a way that's beneficial for them. The decisions that they're making. When this hostage, do you think that the hostages now, I was getting ready to ask the question of, do I think that the Israeli hostages have more in common with Bibi Netanyahu or the Palestinian hostages? And I hesitated. I don't know why I hesitated, but I actually do think that they have more in common still, hostage to hostage, even with that tremendous disparity between what I think of as far as the Palestinians and obviously the life that they're going through right now compared to Israel, with Israel coming in and, if you look at it, being the oppressor, in my opinion. I still think that, damn, this may be a tough one. Hey, there's exceptions to every rule. I don't know about this one, but no, overall, I still think that the hostages still have more in common, hostage to hostage, than the hostages to, you know what? I don't know. I'll be totally honest. when I look at the situation, and maybe this is a good example of how cultures can become so propagandized and have them so polarized, right? Where things between Israel are so polarized with things between the Palestinians and us looking at it on that spectrum. What do y'all think? What do y'all think about that? Because I almost think that even the story that I was telling earlier, not even the story, but I almost think that Palestinian hostages, maybe they do have more in line with the Palestinian leadership, whoever that is, whether it's Hamas, I believe it's Hamas. And maybe the Israeli hostages do have more in common with Bibi Netanyahu. I don't know. Maybe that's actually a testament of how effed up things have become. Maybe in their minds, they just have more of a allegiance, but I really believe that these leaders on any level, their leaders are so corrupt that they will do whatever they can to make you feel like you're more connected to them than to rationalize, I guess, all the evil that they may commit or to get you on board with fighting one way or another. But that's actually, I'd have to think a little bit more about that. I'd actually have to think a little bit more about that. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let me catch up with a couple of y'all comments. Israel was pissing itself over Palestine getting an income. It's all over resources. Sable Star 1956 asked a great question. Who created race? Let's actually, hold on. I think that's a great question. Hold on. Let me ask if it's okay with y'all, I'm going to ask the smartest person that I know. Hold on. Let me share this screen real quick. Let me share this screen very quickly. Let's ask the smartest person that I know. Who created race? Come on, ChatGPT, give me an answer. That's a very interesting question. All right, so let's see. Who created race? The concept of race wasn't created by a single person. It evolved over time as a social and political idea, not a biological fact. So social, political. Automatically, I think about social structure, political structure, control. So one, ancient and pre-modern roots. Ancient civilizations like Egypt, Greece, and Rome noticed differences in skin color and culture, but they didn't categorize people into rigid races. Identity was based more on tribe, language, or region, not white, black, or Asian. All right, so it's all still tribalism. So it says the birth of racial categories during European colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. Europeans began creating racial hierarchies to justify slavery and colonization. Thinkers like Carl Linnaeus and Johann Blumenbach classified humans into groups like Caucasian, Mongolian, Negroid, etc. These so-called scientific categories were used to claim Europeans were superior, giving moral cover to colonization, enslavement, and segregation. So it was basically created to control with evil intentions, in my opinion. All right, let's keep going with this. We'll finish this up very quickly.
Of the 20 hostages that returned are speaking for the first time. Liron Berman thanked President Trump for the return of his twin brothers, Gali and Ziv.
For 738 days, our lives were trapped between hope and fear. Yesterday, that chapter ended. Seeing Gali and Ziv again, holding them after so long, was like feeling the world start to move again.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, all right, I think that's enough of that. Did I copy the wrong? Hold on. All right, so I wanted to share this with you real quickly since we're on that topic. Hold on. So when we talk about the change in, let me just play the video. But I thought that this was interesting. The CNN poll that I was just discussing as far as, America making a shift, perhaps this is going to cause a shift in a lot of the politicians. Y'all tell me what's going to happen. Is this an example of what's to come, or is this just an anomaly?
This is breaking news. For the first time ever, a U.S. congressman has returned his AIPAC donations and severed ties with the lobbying group. U.S. Congressman of Massachusetts, Seth Moulton, who's currently running for the U.S. Senate, just posted this on his X account. I am returning AIPAC donations and refusing to accept any donations or support from them. The FEC filing I made yesterday reflects that we are returning donations. Below is my statement explaining why. I am cautiously optimistic that the recent breakthrough in Gaza will move us closer to ending the horrific violence in the region. A political resolution that allows Israelis and Palestinians to live side by side in peace is exactly the kind of framework I've been calling for from the beginning. I support Israel's right to exist, but I've also never been afraid to disagree openly with AIPAC when I believe they're wrong. In recent years, AIPAC has aligned itself too closely with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. I'm a friend of Israel, but not of its current government, and AIPAC's mission today is to back that government. I don't support that direction. That's why I've decided to return the donations I've received and will not be accepting their support. I still don't trust that guy, but that's not why this is such a big deal. For the first time ever, a U.S. congressman who's currently running for the Senate believes he has a better chance getting elected without AIPAC support than with it. Our voices, our efforts on social media. For the first time ever, we have politicians second-guessing their alignment with AIPAC. Let's keep this up. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this. This is a huge political shift.
I was muted, I know. I like that this guy said that he still doesn't trust him. And the reason why I like that he said that he still doesn't trust him, because I think we have to ask ourselves this question. Why are people now going to start doing this if they are? Is it because they all of a sudden came to some moral point in their life where they're now like, you know what? I'm realizing that AIPAC doesn't put America first, that they're prioritizing Israel and Israel's agenda. Do we think that they just arrived at some moral position, principled position based on it? Or do they see the CNN polls that we see saying that America is actually now, for the first time ever, more sympathetic and empathetic for the Palestinian cause? So are we going to see this shift? Now, it still takes a lot for him, I would assume. I don't know this guy, Seth Moulton. He's running for Senate. What I think they said, Massachusetts. I don't know him, not aware of him. So I don't know if it's something that's going to impact him and in what way. But yeah, he's running for, in Massachusetts. He's running for U.S. Senate. I don't know how it's going to impact him. I don't know how it's going to impact him. And it reminds me of the whole Charlie Kirk conversation. Was Charlie Kirk really changing his stance on Israel-Palestine? Or was he just realizing that it was becoming harder and harder to sell this to his audience? That's what we have to wonder. So I don't know. I guess giving back money is a good thing. Maybe, I think we need to get a lot of the money that's out of politics, that's in politics, out of politics. I think that we definitely need to do that, because then people just get, you're just a salesperson for whoever pays you money. No different than us at our jobs. Whoever pays us, they give us the direction on what we do. We don't say, you know what, I'm gonna do this today. No. You get the direction based on the people that you're paid by. So I don't know. Maybe this is a step in the right direction. I think that it's more telling. The point that I took away from it, I think, is what he's taken away from it, is that things are changing in America. Things are changing. The shift, our perspective on Israel is shifting. And to me, that does bring about a bit of anxiety, more just anxiousness to see, like, how are they going to respond? What's going to be the response? Typically when the people stop following the powers, right? When the people stop believing in the powers, typically, create a war, right? Create something devastating to where the people can now rally and unite and forget about the fact that, we were pissed off at the leadership. In a lot of ways, that's what people say that Bibi Netanyahu is doing right now. Trying to get this war to continue so he won't have to address the charges that he's facing. So he won't have to be held accountable for some of the things that he's been accused of. I don't know. I guess we'll have to to wait and see. All right, let's move on. It's an OGL with water depletion. All right, you sent the OG email with water depletion. All right. I was trying to look at what you wrote. Critical thinking. As far as the OG email, I'm not sure that I read that correctly. All right, let's get into the next video. I think we already have it pulled up. Where's my dog Tucker at? Calling Tucker to the stage. Calling Tucker to the stage. Let me close that out. All right, so like I said, Tucker's going to discuss some of these group messages that have been leaked, and I want to get y'all opinion on them as well. I think there were two situations. The one he goes into detail. The first one he doesn't go into detail much. I'll explain that. I have the political article, so I can explain that. And I'm gonna turn this heat on because it's cold. Hopefully it doesn't mess with the mic. But y'all let me know if the mic starts to get a little bit funny. But let's get into the video. We already pulled up.
Peace been declared in the Middle East, and America has not one but two leaked text scandals to chew over. Amazing. Now, almost no matter what is in the leaked text, a leaked text scandal is a fun scandal because it's inherently salacious. People text under the false presumption that what they're writing is private, and so they relax, they're unguarded. And very often, however, they're wrong, and those texts come out. It's happened to me. And what you learn when you read them is what people are saying and presumably thinking in private. So it's kind of a window into a person's private life. It's very much like a sex tape. And it's irresistible. Everybody loves a leaked text scandal. What's interesting, really, is are they meaningful? Does it actually tell you something about the person who's texting? Well, that all depends on the context. There are plenty of things you text throughout the course of a day, if you're an average American, that really don't reflect a lot about who you really are or what you really think, much less what you intend to do. If you text, that girl's so hot, do you plan to sleep with her? Maybe. Maybe not. In fact, likely not. But the presumption to many readers is that you do, so it's misleading inherently. If you say something really ugly, does that mean you're an ugly person? Well, that all depends. How vehemently did you say it? Did you repeat it? Did you explain why you thought it? Again, context really matters, and leaked text can be grossly unfair and misleading to the person from whom they're leaked because they don't actually reveal the character of the texter. And moreover, by the way, who wants to be reduced to his ugliest text? Not many of us. But they're still interesting, and they can reveal a lot about the people who sent them. So let's go in order through the details of the two leaked text scandals now roiling this country, because not simply the text, but the response to the texts tells you a lot about the state of American politics, and particularly about the differences between the two major parties in how they responded. So first up, the Republican scandal. And it comes to us from Telegram, which is a supposedly pretty secure texting app. And we're going to read some of them. So these kids were texting to each other. These are young Republicans texting each other on a group chat on Telegram. This somehow wound up on Politico. And they are saying things like this. They're referring to African Americans as, quote, the watermelon people. Here's someone else saying that, and we're quoting, everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. And finally, someone on the group text called someone, and I'm quoting now, retarded. So these are young Republicans from across the country texting each other. They are young men. And you might think at first glance that these are kind of young men texts. These are mildly, or in some cases more than mildly, edgy. And they're kind of showing off to each other. So how bad is this? Well, you probably wouldn't say it at Thanksgiving dinner, but is it a death penalty offense? Well, let's check in with some of the guardians of public morals on the Republican side. First up, this is a statement from the Young Republicans, National Young Republican Board of Directors. And we have no idea who these people are, but you can imagine affluent, unmarried gentlemen shepherding these young Republicans through their political growth. I'm not saying they need FBI background checks, but you can just sort of imagine in your mind who these guys are. And we're assuming they're guys. Of course they are. We're quoting. This is their response to these naughty texts leaked to Politico. Quote, we are appalled by the vile and inexcusable language revealed in the Politico article published today. Vile and inexcusable. Such behavior is disgraceful. not just violent and inexcusable, but disgraceful. It's unbecoming of any Republican, and it stands in direct opposition to the values our movement represents. Bracket, values that are not in any way articulated by the board of the Young Republicans, but whatever, they stand against those values. Those involved must immediately resign from all positions within their state and local Young Republican organizations. We must hold ourselves to the highest standards of integrity, respect, and professionalism. Well, it's an unequivocal statement of disgust. Next up, this is Congressman Mike Lawler. Seems like a nice enough guy from New York.
Let me know what y'all think as he's going through the responses. Let me know what your responses are. And if you looked at the article, there was other stuff said, like they were calling black people monkeys. There were some jokes being made about there were some jokes being made regarding an Indian woman, and somebody said she's not Indian, she just doesn't bathe often. So there were jokes that along those lines as well. I know Tucker only focused on a couple. And I'm saying that they were jokes. I'm assuming that they were jokes. Who knows if they're jokes or not? You know, that's it. Some people say you can't joke about certain. I'm just take the joke word out of there. That's what was said. And hold up. King Cry, shout out to King Cry coming through. King Cry wrote, just want to say as a black man, we get so much backlash from our own when we start to think differently. Glad to see other black men thinking independently and critically. New to this channel, but love it. Yo, shout out to you, bro. Shout out to you. And I agree 100% with what you're saying. It happens all the time where as a black man, we're supposed to just see the world through one particular lens. We're supposed to just be Democrat and liberal. We're supposed to just see the world through the black experience in America. And that's as if it's a monolith. And it's not that. I'm questioning everything. And I think that should be more encouraged, not just even among black men, but overall. Think about everything that we've discussed on this show. If we just got out of our own way of seeing things through this hardened lens that we've developed through growing up in our own bubble, largely with people trying to indoctrinate us with certain things. This is how the world is. This is how these people are. This is how what we see on TV, all these different things. They try to just control our minds in a lot of ways, and I'm not going for it. And they definitely do try to box in black men, especially when you may have more conservative thought processes, you know, all these different types of things. And it happens on both sides in a lot of ways, because then even as a black that's more conservative, you think I'm just going to align with everything that y'all say? Absolutely not. Like, I'll call out everything. So I think that we just need to have more free thinkers, independent investigation. And to your point, I think that the only way that we can actually have more free thinkers, and King Cry, and you tell me if you agree, the only way to think differently is to learn new information, either to be exposed to new experiences, to learn new information. So most of us are not exposed to new experiences. Most of the people, we typically tend to be in our bubble, and that's who we're around most of the time. And that largely shapes our vision and perspective on the rest of the world. So the only other way to do it, or I guess one of the ways, I don't know if it's the only way, would be to learn, to look into different things that we may have been taught, and to learn different perspectives, to question our current perspectives, to question and learn, to have this type of mindset. But most of us, we're too lazy to want to learn things. We convince ourselves, oh, I don't care as much about that, so therefore I don't pay attention to it. And that may be the case, but perhaps you should be caring about that. Perhaps it's not just about you. Perhaps when you may be comfortable being naive and ignorant, but who's to say that the next generation, your kids, your nieces, your nephews, the people in your circle, like, who's to say that you don't have an obligation and responsibility to offer some of this teaching to the next generation, to offer a different perspective, to be okay with certain people questioning things. But because we want to just in ourselves remain in our box of comfort, we want to just watch Fox News, or we just want to watch MSNBC and CNN. We have access to this YouTube. We have access to everything. And most of us are coming home either watching Netflix, watching the same news stations, watching sports, watching all this stuff that doesn't, in my opinion, elevate our understanding of life. Now, and perhaps in some ways it does, but I think that we need to be more intentional when it comes to learning our history, learning different perspectives, learning why certain things may have happened outside of just how things were propagandized to us in our indoctrination of an education system. And it happens across the board with everybody. It happens across the board with everybody. It's like, I'm sorry to go off on this tangent, but I was having a conversation with somebody just yesterday, or 2 days ago. I think it was my big bro Pete, where it's like the Dominicans. You have this island of Hispaniola, right? Where it's the Dominican Republic and it's Haiti. And it's just half the island Dominican Republic, half the island's Haiti. And the history books that the Haitians grow up learning is like the exact opposite of the history books that the Dominican Republic, the Dominicans are growing up learning. The heroes for the Dominicans are the villains for the Haitians, and the heroes for the Haitians are the villains for the Dominicans. So if those people never speak, if they never question, like, okay, maybe I should see things from a different perspective, then what's going to ultimately happen? Tribalism is going to win. It's just always going to be war. But when we question certain things, when we're okay doing these things, that's the only way for us to elevate and grow, to understand more perspectives than our own. It's so selfish when we think about it. Even if you're comfortable being ignorant and naive, don't we have a responsibility to teach the next generation? Like, aren't we all teachers? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. I'm open to that. Let's continue with the video.
He's a young man whose donors were very offended by this. And so he wrote this, Mike Lawler, acting on behalf of people who pay him money, no question. Quote, the deeply offensive and hateful comments reportedly made in a private chat among members of the New York State Young Republicans are disgusting. Not only deeply offensive and hateful, but disgusting. They should resign from any leadership position immediately and reflect on how far they have strayed from basic human respect and decency. You, sir, the one who called somebody retarded, are indecent. You have strayed from public decency. That is Mike Lawler's position. So these kids, and who knows how old they are, none of them over 30, no question about it, texting each other in the middle of the day, blowing off work on Telegram. These kids should resign their positions, hang their heads in shame, and reflect on the indecency of their text exchange with their buddies. So that's the position of official Republicandom to these boys. If you didn't know better, you might think that the whole purpose of being an official Republican is to keep your party within certain bounds, not of decency, no, but certain bounds whose rules are written maybe by the other party. This looks a lot like gatekeeping, not the preservation of decency. Why do we think that? Well, because there is widespread indecent behavior among Republican officials. Not just indecent sexual behavior, though doubtless that exists too, but out in the open, public indecency. For example, people taking money from the payday loan lobby. Yes, that happens. Or from foreign governments. That happens too. Or openly advocating for pointless wars in which Americans get killed for no reason, in which our treasury is drained on behalf of somebody else, not us. There are plenty of Republicans who support all of that. Lindsey Graham, for example. How many American deaths would you estimate Lindsey Graham is responsible for? Not simply as a man who frequently articulates the need to go die for some other country, but as a man who votes to start wars that get Americans killed. Has Mike Lawler denounced him as indecent? Should he be reflecting upon his sins? Nope. Lindsey Graham is a Republican elder in good standing, beloved by everybody because he's funny. What about the Republicans who constantly telling us that we need to pledge allegiance to a foreign country? Are those people traitors? Have they committed an indecent act? No, they're all totally fine. But according to Mike Lawler and the board of the National Young Republicans organization, these kids are done. So the response, and that's the interesting part of this story, really, not the fact that someone got called retarded or said someone should go to the gas chambers.
So Tucker brought up something interesting. And I don't even know if I watched this full video. I definitely didn't pay attention to it as much as I'm paying attention to it now. And I just picked up on him saying, you know, calling out like the Lindsey Grahams, calling out a lot of these politicians, like these same politicians. It's almost like whether it's Barack, whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's Bush, whether it's Biden, whether it's Trump. And perhaps it's a lot of the other people like the neo, you know, the Nikki Haley's of the world. These people can get dressed up, you know, put on their suits, get on a debate stage and talk about how people should behave and call certain people out. And even in this situation, like a group message, y'all are actually responsible for killing people. Y'all are actually responsible for killing people, for making decisions that ultimately kill people. Y'all are pressing the button, go. Yeah, drop that bomb there. Drop those drones, do those drone strikes. Let's get it. Yeah, let's go to war with Iraq. Let's kill 700,000 women and children. Or was it 500,000? I don't know. I think it was 500,000 children. But then we're going to hold people accountable to a group chat. What do y'all think? Should people be held accountable for their group chat? And if a private message gets out? And these are my thoughts on it, because I've kind of thought about it for the last couple of days. We've done a couple of videos because Nick Fuentes, he had some things to say on it. And I think the easiest way for me to describe it is if I'm an employer, let's say I'm an employer, I have my company, and one of my employees has a message like this exposed. I really do believe that, and you know, you never know what you would do until you get into that situation. But I really do believe that I would just call that person, maybe not even into the office. Maybe I would just tell that person to meet me at the diner. Let's grab a coffee, grab some breakfast, whatever, and maybe just coffee. But maybe breakfast. I don't know. We'd have an honest conversation. And I want to see, first and foremost, if that person is being genuine as they're speaking to me, whatever they're saying. That would be the most important thing. That would probably turn me off the most if I feel like somebody's just acting or trying to play me in whatever way, or just trying to say what they think I want to hear rather than what they actually believe. If somebody said something racist and they stand on the joke or a joke and said, you know, that's just how I talk to my friends. Like, it is what it is. I don't want to, you know, act like I'm sorry about it if I'm not sorry about it. Like, that's just how we joke. Like, you know, I obviously didn't mean for the text to come out. Obviously didn't mean for it to offend anybody, but that's how, you know, my friends and I joke, and I don't know how I would respond. I think that it should be taken into account, you know, what type of person, you know, who we are in our jokes. I'm sure if you looked at some of my group message, certain things that I say, I probably wouldn't be happy with the entire world seeing. But whatever you see in the group chat that I may write, okay, put that up there, but then put up maybe the other things that you know about me. You know, put up everything, and then, you know, put that into the equation. Don't count that more than you may count the other stuff, or I don't know. Like, it should almost factor in. Like, once we're exposed to it, it is what it is. If you don't want these type of things being shown or being exposed, then just don't write them. We act as if we don't know that text messages can be screenshot or that something can be released unless they have some technology that I'm not aware of. I remember my dad used to tell me that he said, if you're thinking about making a decision and you're going back and forth on it, imagine if whatever decision you make is going to be on the front page of the New York Times tomorrow. That may help you make your decision. So maybe that's something that we should consider. And even when we think about these jokes, maybe this is just a wake-up call for a lot of the ways that we do joke. Maybe they are inappropriate. Maybe they do lead to certain things, and especially when it comes to group chats and whatnot. And perhaps the people that are influencers and the leaders in a lot of these group chats should take more of a role. I mean, there's a guy, let me give you an example. Let me share this screen, actually. So there's a guy, can you guys see the screen? All right. And this is why I say the leaders. So this guy, Samuel Douglas, He's a state senator from northern Vermont who heads the state's Young Republicans. He's apparently the only elected official in the group chat. He's facing growing calls to resign over his participation in the chat, including from Vermont's Republican Governor Phil Scott. The hateful statements made in this group chat are disgusting and unacceptable. The vile, racist, bigoted, and anti-Semite dialogue that has been reported is deeply disturbing. There's simply no excuse for it, Scott said this. So this is what their governor said. So what did Douglas write in the chat? He replied to Walker's remark about a very obese Indian woman after Junta pushed back, saying the woman was not Indian. She just didn't bathe often, Douglas added, according to Politico. After Douglas made another comment about a Jewish colleague potentially making a procedural mistake, his wife, Breonna Douglas, Vermont's National Young Republicans committee member, who was also on the chat, responded he was giving the colleague too much credit and expecting the Jew to be honest. So do I want my leaders and state senators making these type of jokes? You know, like I said, it should, once I get the information, I want to know who you, think about it. That's who we always try to find out, who somebody is when the cameras aren't on you. You know, and largely is that more of our character? Are we more of who we are when the cameras are in front of our face, or are we more of who we actually are when there are no cameras? And then from a leadership position, the reason why I bring that up is because even in some of the group messages that I'm on, without, you know, whatever. Even so, and I'm not saying the exact group message that I'm talking about, but one of the group messages that I'm on is Nick Fuentes. And but the various group messages that I may be on. In that group message, you realize that a lot of times the people that are most active, the people that are saying the most, those are the people that are frustrated, are angry, are insecure. So they're saying a lot of these things. They may be saying the N-word. They may be dropping all these different things. And I think there is a responsibility on the leaders in the group chat to not appeal to the emotionally triggering, you know, of these people. Like that's surface level. Like that's in my opinion, like you get to a point where, you know, you have to be better than that, than leading people just by feeding into their frustrations and feeling like you can drop an N-bomb just to get them back on your side. I think that there needs to be some direction when it comes to the leaders, because a lot of these super emotional people that are frustrated and angry, those are the ones that are going to be able, that are going to go out there and crash out. It's no different than Barack Obama and the Democrats telling us that Donald Trump is Hitler, he's a Nazi. But then when Barack Obama sits down with him, he's laughing and joking with him. But meanwhile, the people that you're pushing and telling them that Donald Trump is a Nazi, Donald Trump is Hitler, if he's all these things and we grow up learning about Donald or Hitler being such an evil person, then wouldn't it be heroic of somebody to then maybe in Butler, Pennsylvania, take a shot at Trump? Now, I don't know what the intentions were, or well, not the intentions. I don't know what the motivation or inspiration was behind somebody wanting to take a shot at Trump. But when we say these things, I think we have a responsibility and obligation to make sure that we're not misleading people. Yeah, were my lips just mad ashy? Oh, I'm glad that I just felt like my lips were real ashy. I'm sorry. That's the whatever. If they were, I'm disappointed that y'all didn't tell me. But it is what it is. But yeah, these are the type of things when you're leading people that are angry and you're leading them based on emotionally triggering them. I think you have a duty and responsibility to dull down some of that fire, to dull down some of that flame. Now, if people get held accountable for it, I don't know. It is what it is at that point. If anything, I'm questioning, shoot, say the jokes. Say the jokes on your Instagram. Put it out there. You know, I know that I'm being a little facetious in saying that, but if you can't put it out there, then maybe we should question some of the things that we're taking for granted in our group chat and joking about. I don't know. I'm not trying to police your group chat. Do what you feel. Do whatever you do. Just don't get pissed off if the stuff gets exposed, I guess. I guess that would be my thoughts on it, but let's keep going. Hold on, I'm sharing the wrong screen. There we go.
That's the interesting part of this story, really, not the fact that someone got called retarded or said someone should go to the gas chambers. But the response was quick and it was unequivocal. The party will not tolerate this, the Republican Party. And what's interesting about this story is that it appeared against the backdrop of a bigger and longer story, one that began at the beginning of this month out of Virginia, where there's a very tight race for attorney general. It's one of those positions that very few people outside of politics consider important, but within politics is considered the key position in any state. It's the head lawyer in the state. That person has an awful lot of power. And the race in Virginia includes the Republican incumbent standing up against a 36-year-old man called Jay Jones. Jay Jones is a former delegate in the Virginia House. And a few years ago, Jay Jones became very annoyed, apparently, with the head Republican in the House of Delegates. And he expressed his anger at this man in a text exchange with a Republican delegate, interesting, with a woman. And that text exchange unfolded this way. Now, I'm going to read this verbatim, and you can decide whether this is lacking context or not. So this is Jay Jones, the 36-year-old then delegate, black guy, now running for attorney general. And he's talking about a man called Todd Gilbert, the head Republican in the Virginia House. And he says of Gilbert, and he's speaking to Kerry Conyer, who's a fellow delegate, a Republican, he says, if these guys go before me, if they die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves. Send them out awash in something. To which Kerry Conyer, clearly is kind of a decent person, says, Jay Jones. And then Jones responds this way, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Jay, says Kerry Conyer, please stop. Jay says, LOL, okay. Then she says, if it really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death on them, it isn't okay, no matter who they are. So at this point, she calls him. Kerry Conyers calls Jay Jones and says, I'm really bothered by our text exchange. Do you mean that? Do you really wish death on the head Republican in the House? And Jay Jones says, not only do I wish death on him and his wife, I also wish death on their children. He says that. And we know he says it because he repeats it in this text exchange which followed their phone conversation. She says this to Jay Jones. You weren't simply asking questions and you know it, Jones. I genuinely was. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. She says, you weren't trying to understand. You were hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. To which you would expect Jay Jones to say, I don't want our kids to die. I was just trying to make a rhetorical point, right? No. Jay Jones says, yes. I do want them to die. I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. To which Conyer says, I point blank asked you more than 3 times and you dug in that you meant it. I'm honestly questioning a lot today. And he writes back in the clearest sentence ever uttered in a private text exchange. I mean, I do think Todd and Jennifer are evil. And they're breeding little fascists. Yes, I think that. They're evil, and they're breeding little fascists who deserve to die. This is not one of those text exchanges where you have to guess at the context or the intent. This is an exchange between 2 people, one of whom is calling for the murder of children, and the other is trying really hard from the context here to talk him out of thinking that. You don't really mean that, do you, Jay Jones? Yes, I do. Yes, I do mean that. Now, there are so many levels of irony here. The most obvious is this is a leading Democrat who wants to be the chief law enforcement officer in the state, who is a gun control advocate calling for the murder of kids, okay? And calling for the murder of kids because they're related to adults he doesn't like. This is African ethics. This is the Hutu mentality. This is guilt by blood. There is nothing less Western than this. This is...
Wait, what? Hold on, what? Yo, did I just hear that right? Like, did it just... Wait, what? Did he just out of nowhere say that this is African ethics? Did I just... Hold on. Wait, what? Did I miss something? Because I was actually looking up Jay Jones in the background, but was something else mentioned about African or something like that? I know he mentioned that Jay Jones is black, but did I miss anything else? Some context there? Hold on.
In the state who is a gun control advocate calling for the murder of kids, okay? And calling for the murder of kids because they're related to adults he doesn't like. This is African ethics. This is the Hutu mentality. This is guilt by blood. There is nothing less Western than this. This is the idea that you are tainted or you're virtuous because of how you were born. This is a collective understanding of the world.
It appears that Tucker's reading something. I don't know if he just misread something, but I'm just confused. This is African ethics? There's nothing less Western? And I just have to go back to, didn't we just chat GPT how race was created? And now Tucker's saying like seeing the world through I got to run that back a little bit, because how is that not Western culture? Is that not European colonization of coming to America and establishing a hierarchy, a caste system based on race, and saying that these people are inherently, we're superior to them inherently, and that these people are like animals. We got to weren't those the justifications with slavery? I'm sorry. Like, you got to call out stuff as it, like, what just happened there? Like, I'm confused as to where the conversation went. I must have missed something. Somebody please give me some clarity, but I just got to go back a couple seconds because I just don't understand. I just don't understand that. But maybe this is just another example of everything getting racialized. Like, in order to prove that something is a certain way, we gotta, this is African ethics. Like, what? It sounds pretty colonizing ethics. I don't know. Let me listen again.
And calling for the murder of kids because they're related to adults he doesn't like. This is African ethics. This is the Hutu mentality. This is guilt by blood. There is nothing less Western than this. This is the idea that you are tainted or you're virtuous because of how you were born. This is a collective understanding of the world. This is tribal. And if you think it through, this is what identity politics inexorably leads to. It leads toward giving some people rewards and others very dire punishments based on how they look and based on who their parents are. There is nothing less Western than this, but Jay Jones embraces it completely. And the man that he's talking about, by the way, Todd Gilbert, then the head Republican, is not famous as some kind of firebrand. He's just sort of a normal guy. So what is going on here exactly?
All right, man, this is, is anybody just like objectively down the middle, same energy towards this group, same energy towards this group? Like, is anybody like that? And the reason why I say all these things is because Tucker is now describing this black guy who's a Democrat and the things that he was saying, which are obviously terrible, horrendous, right? But when you discuss the things that the young Republicans were saying about the gas chambers, about all these different things, I didn't hear all this tribalist talk that he's now referencing African ethics and the Houthis about. I'm just a little confused here. Like, and I hate to even make the conversation about that, but what is he talking about? Like, this is exactly the problem, having a different energy towards one group than you have towards another. Why? What makes one? It's like he tried to, like, when it came to the young Republican group, I sensed more of an energy from Tucker that was, like, now we're going to judge people based on text messages. You know, he's comparing people to Lindsey Graham, people that are saying these people are ridiculous and all this stuff. But then when it comes to this one, which is different in some ways, I would say, but a lot of y'all probably also didn't listen to the entire Politico article or watch the entire Politico article. Read it and understand everything that was being said in that group message. But they were referencing death and all these different things. I guess we're going to say one was jokes, on that end. This one wasn't jokes. But I don't understand why he just chose to do that, and I don't think that it's true. Like, this is the audacity that happens with a lot of America, and this is when I get into a lot of the personal debates that I have with conservatives. Like, I think that they see me as a conservative, so they think that they can say certain things, and I'm not going to challenge it. But this is one of those things where it's like you're acting as if your entire country's existence in America was not built on a foundation of establishing a caste system based on race and valuing the black race overall as a subhuman race in a lot of ways. And now, a few hundred years later, you're sitting on this high horse taking shots at African ethics and saying that this is not Western. Like, if this isn't Westernized culture, then what is? And this is the same thing that you see when it comes to America getting involved in other people's foreign affairs. Like, America, we like to sit on this high horse, this pedestal, and act as if, you know, we're the moral compass to the world. Even when we'll talk a little bit more about it, I'm sure, on Monday's show with Maduro and us getting involved in Venezuela. I looked at all the reasons why the United States wants to get involved in Venezuela and pushing for a regime change. Every single thing that I was reading, it was like unfair elections, or it's like 4 things that I was reading, and I was thinking, like, hold up, this is the exact thing that Americans, you know, are going through in America, like the same complaints. You know, imagine looking at America and seeing January 6th and seeing people, oh, this is an unfair election, like they're trying to overthrow the government. These same things would apply, and it's like, America, we just feel like we can just speak from this standpoint as if we don't accept any accountability from our past and any wrongdoings that we may have had, but we have no problem taking pop shots at other cultures. I don't like that. I don't like that.
What's going on here is what we see all around us. You have 2 parties, one of which is committed to polite language, and the other is committed to following the logic of their own belief, identity politics being the core belief of the Democratic Party, to its logical extension. And the logical extension is some groups get the rewards and other groups get killed. This is the logic of a lot of the world, by the way. It's the logic of Africa, all of Africa. It's the logic of the Middle East. It is not the logic of America, of our...
Hold on. So, Chosen 33, welcome to the show. What is he not lying about? What is he not lying about? The last time I checked, when I was propagandized with the BS education, and actually at a great schools in Montclair, New Jersey, I was taught that there was a transatlantic slave trade in which Europeans brought Africans over, and they saw them as a subhuman culture. They were 3/5 of a human. All these type of things. They were treated like worse than dogs. And is that not the tribalism that Tucker's talking about? Like, is that not Westernized culture? And even when he just says this is happening throughout Africa, like, he can get away with saying that. And the reason why he can get away with saying that is because I don't really know much that's going on in Africa. So I guess he can get away with saying that. But how is our country? I don't get it. I don't get it. I may be off though. Let me see. And I didn't even realize this was Steve. So it's changing a lot of people's names, I guess, on here. Because I didn't even know that this was my big bro Steve the whole time. I would have been showing you more love. My apologies, big bro. This type of behavior is a great example of how some politicians feel that they operate from a virtuous high ground where they truly believe in violence against their political opponents. I agree with that. And let me get away from that, because this is what happens. You just saw a prime example of what just happened. He's talking about something, and I completely went to a different direction. Perhaps I was emotionally triggered. But I just don't like him using that type of stuff, because that's what ends up happening. You start referencing Africa, referencing all this stuff, bro, stick to what's going on here. You can reference a whole bunch of stuff in America. So going back to this situation with Jay Jones, with a politician who's calling out for the death of somebody else, should he be held accountable for that? Absolutely, he should be held accountable for that. Like I said before in the other text, put it out there. You can explain it. You can give whatever context you want. But this is definitely the energy of what politics has turned into in America. I don't need to reference other countries. This is what the politics has turned into in America. Are we forgetting that Donald Trump just was shot? Are we forgetting that Charlie Kirk just was assassinated? Are we forgetting that we've had deaths of presidents? You know, I know it may seem like a long time ago, but the JFKs, that the political assassinations with the MLK, all these different things. This is the culture that America has created when it comes to politics, in my opinion. And this is what all of the race baiting, this is what the radicalization of political parties has become. This is what I think will continue to happen if there is no third party. This is why the elites don't want a third party, because they know that if there's no third party to serve as a checks and balance system to the other parties, then things will just get polarized, and the radicals will have the loudest voices, and the people in the middle will be forced to go with one radical group or another radical group. And then a guy like Jay Jones, I don't even know who this guy is. I had to Google him. He's an American politician and attorney. He served, so he's the attorney general candidate. I guess that's how a lot of this stuff came out. Yeah, I've never seen this guy, but this is why people feel like they can talk this way, because politics has grown into this vile type of industry arena in which we have a lot of ways it brings out the worst in people, right? It brings out the worst in people. I don't care what your intentions were when you first got into politics to help people and stuff, but I think we can see across the board that it tends to bring out the worst in people, or it challenges you in ways that a lot of people fall victim to, allowing the worst of them to come out. Maybe that's a better way to say it, but let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Politics of our civil society, of our religion. It's the opposite. So why did it take leaked text exchanges for us to find this out? We're going to speak to the head Republican in the House of Delegates in Virginia in a minute and ask. But there are a couple other things to point out. This man, Jay Jones, is almost a perfect representative of his party. He is black, and because he has very often been the victim of racism, because that's what it is to be black in America. You don't get a fair shot. No one takes you seriously. You're constantly being attacked. And he's talked about this quite a bit. Here is Jay Jones talking about his experience as a black man in America.
All across this Commonwealth, whether it's a Confederate flag hanging on the highways here in the Commonwealth, whether it is our restrictive voting laws that we've worked to update in the legislature. We've got so much work to do. We know that our system is inequitable and unjust. If you've ever been to a correctional facility or a jail in this Commonwealth, you'll see that the faces are predominantly black and brown. That doesn't make any sense. We've got to make sure we update this system, start from scratch to make sure that it's going to work for every single person. As a black Virginian who has experienced racism and discrimination firsthand, I know what this is all about.
So that's the thing about Jay Jones. He's seen racial discrimination firsthand. In the state where he lives, literally in his state, there was a person who had a Confederate flag. So he's lived it. I mean, it's not crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge to face off fire hoses, but it's pretty close. Someone flew a Confederate flag in his state.
You know, like my opinion on this, I don't like Jay Jones's approach to trying to appeal to the victimhood of blacks and the black experience and continuing to push this racist, America's racist to black people. Y'all know I don't like that. I don't like all that victimhood stuff. If you constantly tell people and convince people that the world is racist, everything is racist, you're black, you're not going to get these opportunities. You're programming people to see the world in that particular way. Is there racism? Yeah, I guess. It seems like a natural thing for people to give certain opportunities to people that look like them. And obviously living in America, we've had certain racial policies, even in our, government system. So yeah, I guess there is racism, but do a lot of these politicians, are they quick to appeal and use racism whatever way that they can to emotionally engage people and get them on board and to bring up this racial issue where now you're voting based on identity politics rather than just policies and principles? I can't stand when politicians do that. I don't like it. I think it's misleading. I think it's manipulating, all these different things. Then on the other end, when I hear Tucker, it's kind of like he's trivializing it to the point where it's somewhere in the middle for me. It's somewhere in the middle. Now, I'm probably even closer to Tucker's side, if I'll be totally honest, because I really can't stand the whole appeal to victimhood. I can't stand it. I think that it really puts Black people and whatever, well, I'm just talking specifically about Black people, but I'm sure it applies to other victim groups, but it puts Black people in a very bad position, in my opinion, where it creates this sense of entitlement, this sense of seeing the world through the glass. Oh, my glass is empty. Your glass is half full, whatever it may be. I just don't think that it does a service to Black people. But then on the other end, when I hear Tucker and him kind of trivializing it, maybe that's just me being emotionally triggered, by the situation. But I do think that it falls somewhere in the middle for me. It falls somewhere in the middle for me. When he talks about downplaying the Confederate flag, I'm sure, I don't know if Tucker would feel that same way if, let's say, a swastika was being flown and Jewish people got offended by that. I don't think that Tucker would be up here trivializing you got offended by a swastika. I don't think that most Americans would be thinking like that. But the reason why I don't think most Americans would be thinking like that in one situation and not, let's say, apply that same logic to a Black person seeing the Confederate flag is because most of y'all may not be seeing the world through a Black person's lens. You may not see the same thing that when we see a Confederate flag and what that represents, because it may not have oppressed, your people the same way that I may see a Nazi symbol and it not impact me the same way that it impacts somebody Jewish. I may not look at Hitler the same way that a Jewish person looks at Hitler. We just talked about how Jesse Owens' experience, he was getting treated better by Hitler and the Germans and the Nazis than he was at home with Woodrow Wilson in America. So different people, I understand how experience shape our perspectives in a lot of ways. I do understand that. But I think that we can be a bit insensitive, whether it's a statue, whether it's a Confederate flag. Those things mean different people to different things. They mean different things to different people. It just is what it is. And I think that Tucker's trying to downplay that. But I wonder if he would just have the same energy if it was a Jewish person with a swastika. I don't know.
There was a person who had a Confederate flag. So he's lived it. I mean, it's not crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge to face off fire hoses, but it's pretty close. Someone flew a Confederate flag in his state. Here he is again. This is another quote from him, which I'll read. This is Jay Jones during the Ralph Northam, former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, blackface scandal, when it turned out that Ralph Northam had worn blackface at a party in college decades before. Literally true. Ralph Northam was also openly for infanticide, not a problem. But he wore blackface at a party once, and no one was more rattled, almost undone by this than Jay Jones. Listen to Jay Jones at the time. To me, and many people like me, these events are a window into a struggle that defines daily life for African Americans from the day we are born until the day we die. And despite the generations of suffering and sacrifice, my own life has been impacted by the overt and covert racism that has haunted my ancestors for hundreds of years. And it wasn't always overt.
I want to run it back from the beginning.
Was more, and many people like me, than Jay Jones. Listen to Jay Jones at the time. To me, and many people like me, these events are a window into a struggle that defines daily life for African Americans from the day we are born until the day we die. And despite the generations of suffering and sacrifice, my own life has been impacted by the overt and covert racism that has haunted my ancestors for hundreds of years. And it wasn't always overt racism thrown in my face. It was the casual racism, the subtle comments, the jokes from white acquaintances who had the luxury of thinking about race as fodder for humor. The black Virginia that is still oppressed by vestiges of Jim Crow in our legal system, that fears law enforcement, is mocked in yearbooks and photos year after year after year, and looks skeptically at white Virginia because of the generations past. So you can see Jay Jones has felt the pain. He's felt the sting, the bullwhip on his shoulders, the German shepherds at his heels, fighting for equality in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm not with all that extra stuff. Maybe I have a different experience than Jay Jones. I think when I just looked up Jay Jones, I believe it said that his dad is a prominent attorney. I don't know what his experience is. He's also very fair-skinned. Let me show y'all real quick. That's Jay Jones. Not to say that light-skinned people don't go through racism. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just, based on me looking it up, I believe that his dad was a prominent attorney. I don't know how much of racism, how much it was impacting his life. Like, I just don't have that experience. I'll be honest. I don't have that experience. And then I think about, like, who really does have this experience that Jay Jones describes? Like, who really does have this experience? I imagine that, people growing up in the hood, I guess they don't have that experience because they're not really, let's say if you grow up in a black neighborhood, you're not really around white people, I would think, to even have that experience. I mean, I guess on a job you may have it. I don't know. I don't have that experience, bro. I don't have that. I don't see the world through that lens. Even when I was seeing the world through that lens, if I'm being honest with myself, I still didn't have those type of experiences. I would imagine the people that do have those experiences are the ones maybe in corporate America where you're around more white people than your neighborhood, or I don't know if you're having it in your neighborhood. I grew up in a diverse neighborhood, or a diverse school system, I should say, Montclair. My neighborhood wasn't diverse. Like, I grew up more around like white people in Upper Montclair, but Montclair overall was diverse. Like, most of my friends are black, but I also grew up with a bunch of, white friends, especially when I was younger. Everybody tends to hang around. Then when you get older, you're around mostly just the people that you play sports with. So naturally, playing basketball and football, I was around, mostly black people. Then I went to college at William & Mary, which is more white than black, obviously. I mean, for those that know it, that's one of the oldest schools. I think we're number 2. Thomas Jefferson went there. So I just don't have these experiences. I went to school in Virginia. Can certain aspects be racist? Can certain things be racist? Have I had a little, white girl touching my hair? I remember when Maya's friend was babysitting. It's like, oh my God, what is it? I didn't take it as racist. I took it as she's never seen locks before. I don't know. I don't have these type of experiences. So I think that what a lot of these politicians do, they'll get up on stage and they'll try to appeal to black people and appeal to other victims that they see and give them an excuse as to why they're in the position that they're in, and give them somebody that they can blame, and let that other candidate that they're going up against, or that other political party that they're going up against, represent everything that's holding this particular group back. And I think it's very easy for a lot of us to embrace that victimhood mentality, because it gives us a sense of not only entitlement, but it gives us a reason as to why we may not be in the position that we're in. So I just see it as like political, mumbo jumbo. Like, it's all like, I don't know. I'm thinking about the black people that I know in my life. I don't think that they experience this type of racism. I don't know. I don't know who's experiencing this type of racism. I don't like I experience this type of racism when I go into the Jamaican store. And the mean Jamaican lady is treating me way worse than the white guy next to me. Like, that's when I experience it like the most, if I'm being totally honest with y'all. If I'm being real, like, I don't experience this type of racism. And maybe people will get mad at me saying that, but I also think when people think about it, it'll make a bit more sense. I don't know. I don't experience this type of racism, man. I don't. So let's keep going.
And you know that from the world he grew up in. Jay Jones is the grandson of a prominent lawyer in Norfolk. Jay Jones's father went to boarding school in Princeton. He became a judge, just like Jay Jones's mother. Jay Jones went to the most expensive private school in Norfolk. Then he went from there to William and Mary, and then he was forced to endure the University of Virginia Law School.
Hold up, he went to William and Mary? Hold up, who is this dude? Hold up, I went to school with him. Hold on. All right, now we got to do a little research. Jay Jones, when did he graduate from William and Mary? Hold on. Jay Jones graduate from William and Mary, what year? Hold on. I was in school with him. Hold on, let me ask ChatGPT. What year did he graduate William and Mary? Hold up, do I know him? Now I'm trying to look at his face. So hold up, we graduated in the same year? Hold on, man. Hold on, I'm going to my Facebook real quick. Hold on, before I say anything, hold up, man. Is this my man's? Hold up. We graduated the same year? Yo, I don't think we're friends. Hold on. Hold on, man. I had no idea. All right. That's kind of funny. Damn, okay. Didn't know he went to William and Mary, but seems like he went to private school. And this, you know what? This is what happens. All right. And a lot of times it may be with good intent, but this is something that I realized. A lot of times black kids that go to private school that maybe don't grow up with around a lot of black people, that then go to mostly predominantly white schools, they almost feel this obligation to stand up for black people. And what I think ends up happening is they end up sensationalizing a lot of the struggle that a lot of people are going through. Do people experience racism? Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, yes. But is it impacting you to the point where a lot of these politicians make it out to be? I don't think so. Now I gotta look up my man Jay Jones, because I don't want to say something like, yo, I don't remember him in school. No, I don't. He looks familiar. Hold up. We'll look into it.
Now, we haven't seen the deal he cut with financial aid, but we can get.
All right. Matter of fact, I just realized it's 10:15. I gotta get out of here. Hold on. Let me what did Unc write? Clean out what you think other people feel is depressing them and make them feel as though you're the help. You're there to help them in that depression. That's what politics is. Exactly. Steve wrote, how much positivity are we exposed to through media nowadays in comparison to the negative, low vibration content that we are inundated with on a daily basis? There's a definite impact. Yeah. Yeah. What you want to see, you'll see. What you focus on up here, you'll eventually see here. What you focus on here and maybe here as well, you'll eventually see here. Those are my thoughts on it. I got to get out of here. Let's do this. Let's do this. Most important part of the show. All right, so this is what I'm thinking, just so y'all know. I'm thinking about doing the show from Monday to Friday, 8 to 9. That's what I'm contemplating over this weekend, because I think that Monday and Friday isn't enough to grow with these conversations the way that I see the vision. And I think that you have to have something where people can go to every day, like where it's ritual. So just some thoughts on that. But now the most important part of the show, I was just kind of giving y'all some insight. But most important part of the show, let's do our breath work, meditate, manifest, where we take 45 seconds to just be still. All right. Give yourself whatever it is that you need. This is the most important part. We like to say every inhale. Matter of fact, we don't like to say, we like to feel every inhale. Positive energy. We're putting positive thoughts, limitless energy in our minds, in our body, in our souls. And then with every exhale, we're getting rid of all the negative limiting energy that we have. All right. Anything that makes us question how amazing we are and how much capability we have to turn into the people that we want to turn into. So therefore, every exhale, release the negative energy. Every inhale, positive. We're going to go for 45 seconds. If you're in a safe place, close your eyes. If you don't feel like closing your eyes, close them anyway. 45 seconds starting now. All right, one last inhale. Well, not one last inhale. Inhale, positive. One last exhale where we're focused on getting that last bit of negative energy out. Now we're just circulating positive energy, y'all. Circulating positive energy. Y'all know what we come here to do. Elevate on purpose, all right? Both from an intentional standpoint, raising our standards to become the best leaders we can become that are needed now more than ever, all right? Challenging ourselves, become a leader. Lead in whatever role that you're playing. A leader doesn't have to be the person in the front, doesn't have to be the person that gets all the attention. Lead in whatever role it is that you're playing. Become the best at that role. Become the GOAT in that role that you're playing right now. All right, that's what we need, all right? As well as challenging ourselves to grow into the people that we need to become in order to feel confident, in order to develop the tools and skills to accomplish these goals, all right? So that way, when we have these huge goals that are standing in front of us, we are confident that we can accomplish, that we know that we have the tools and skills and the sacrifice necessary in order to accomplish those things. So strength and honor, onward and upward. Y'all know what I mean when I say get to that bag. For those that don't know what I mean when I say get to the bag, it's all the things that we focus on. Hold up, I got a text. All the things that we focus on in order to make sure we're on the proper trajectory to making the impact that we want to make in this world. That's what we like to call our personal legend. So all the things that we're doing throughout the month, throughout the day, throughout the year that are ultimately going to add up into what our personal legend is going to become. And of course, big bro Robert came through. Thank you, big bro. Appreciate you always contributing and showing love, man. It really means a lot. But getting back to the bag, right? Getting back to the bag. Robert definitely threw something in my bag as well. But this is the other bag. But the things that I try to focus on, the things that I do focus on, we don't try, we just do. Peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in everything we do, integrity, and of course, we always add that balance to whatever it is that we're doing. Add that balance, the proper balance, practical balance. Unc said, technically, I need a wake and bake. Go ahead, Unc. Elevate, Unc. You do what's best for you, Unc. Whatever it takes for you to elevate, you go for it. 4-second box breathing works great for me. 4-second box breathing. Big bro, explain that real quick if you can before we get off. If not, we'll incorporate it into next week's shows. But
4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, out 4 seconds.
Oh, Maya, see, this is why I want Maya sitting right here. This is why I need her sitting right here. So one more time, it's in 4 seconds, out 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. So let's try one of those. Huh?
In 4 seconds, hold
4 seconds.
Out 4 seconds.
Okay.
Hold 4 seconds.
Okay, so in 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, out 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. We're going to do one of those. All right, one of those. Incorporate this into your weekend. So we're going to be in. So we're going to take a 4-second count. Inhale. So let's go. Hold on. Start all over. My lungs. Hold on. 4 seconds. That's a long time. All right. 4-second inhale. Hold for 4 seconds. 4-second exhale. Four-second hold. I feel good.
You're holding your exhale, right?
Yeah, the hold, I'm holding my exhale. Duh, Maya.
I'm just making sure.
Duh.
It looked like you were breathing.
I may have got a little bit of an inhale on the last one, but you didn't need to call me out on that. Man, love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Y'all know what it is. Big bro Steve said, let's have an amazing week while being the change we want to see. Be the change we want to see. None of us know the answers, but I bet you, as much as I can talk on here and everybody can talk, when you get in a room with people, everything tends to be much easier, right? You don't have to have all the answers. You get in a room with people and you just learn and build and you treat them with respect and everything will take care of itself. All right. So forget searching for the internet for people to give you the answers. Be around different types of people. And I think the answers will come to us. And that's why we all appreciate everybody giving their perspectives, because that's the only way, in my opinion. Yes, it was an amazing show. I needed that this morning. Appreciate it. Big bro Steve said you nailed it, bub. It takes practice, but works great. Calms the body and mind and lowers blood pressure. Yeah, she called me out on mine, so I got to do a little bit more practicing. Unc said, feels good to breathe deep. That way it opens up your mind, body, and soul. Same, Steve. I love it. All right, yo. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. And I'm leaning towards every day next week. 8 to 9. We're going to try it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it and see how it goes. I'll commit to next week. Black Panther, Killmonger energy. Become your own superhero. Become your own superhero. And on that note, I'll see y'all soon. Appreciate y'all. We can and we will do this. All right, big love, y'all. Y'all have a good one.